Hello there. Well, guess what? It is almost time for NaNoWriMo. Now, this is one of my favorite times of year. National Novel Writing Month is when writers from around the world decide to do the best they can to write at a minimum 50,000 words in a single month. Now, it may be on one project, it may be on multiple projects, it may be on blog posts, or it may be fiction. It really depends on the individual author. And while a number of people choose to use this month as a time to really focus in on a single project, there's a fair number who they have no clue what they're going to write about. In fact, I've been talking to some of you, and there is a general sense of panic of, I don't even have a story, I don't have an idea, maybe I have a genre, but I have no clue how this is going to work out. Well, don't worry. As I've told you, I have all sorts of tricks for avoiding writer's block. In fact, writer's block, fortunately, is something I haven't had to deal with for a very long time, and one of these secrets is the prompt novel, and the particular variation that I'm going to be showing you today is called the Pinterest prompt novel. Now, I had intended to show a live streaming version of this, and I'm going to try to get some shots in there, but hopefully it's fairly self-explanatory. But Pinterest is just being a little bit difficult, and I've kind of run out of time. So, here's hoping technology cooperates. So, 3, 2, 1. Technological difficulties want to continue. It doesn't help that I'm a little bit of a novice, but you know, if you're on Pinterest, this is basically what you would do. You'd set up a board, you need your account. Whether or not you make it secret is up to you. I tend to do that, well, that'll be another post. I'll explain why I tend to keep it private. But I'm going to take you and show you what my Pinterest novel, my most recent one, looks like, and that's Through the Painting Dimly. Now, when I started off with this, I decided to set aside 2 hours and just pen as many pens as I could in that period. I knew that I wanted it to be about sort of a contemporary fantasy, and I knew that I wanted it to be something of a tribute to George MacDonald and his novel Fantasies, which if you haven't read, I do recommend it. It's a little bit slow going at times, and there are occasionally one-page sentences, but it's absolutely incredible, and one of my favorite books. Had quite a profound influence on me as a writer and as a person. And so I had that going in, and then I just went and I picked up, just went on various feeds and started pinning. I think I did 5 minutes on each of the sites that I decided to do. So let's go over here, and then we'll come back to this and I'll show you some more. Here on Illustration and Posters, I just would go through, and with the exception of the promoted by, because those are obviously ads, I would just add everything. And it didn't matter whether I liked it or not, because part of this is just to stimulate ideas, and just because you like something doesn't mean it's going to inspire you, and just because you dislike it doesn't mean it won't inspire you. Sometimes you're going to go the exact opposite way. So I would just put all of these together, and then I would go over to travel and do that. In fact, if I were to recommend, oh, that's not going to work. Okay, here we go. If I were to recommend the most important ones, travel is really good for getting location. Celebrities is very good for getting ideas for characters. Illustrations and posters, some great inspiration there. Film, music, and books, same thing. And then everything else, it's up to you. I would go through these, and so you'll notice when we go back to this, they kind of goes in batches, and I'd go to my home feed, popular, everything, and sometimes I would even type in, like say, here we go, desert fantasy, because maybe I want it to be a fantasy set in the desert, and that gets me some more targeted, and then I just pen everything. Again, doesn't matter. And these are going to become like, maybe there's a setting, oh, maybe this is a character, maybe this is a creature. And of course, be careful if it's copyrighted or something. Don't infringe on that. But can't you just feel the story ideas flowing as you look at these and start wondering, what are their stories? Who are they? So I do sometimes use the keywords, and I try to keep it fairly general. Or like in this Through the Painting Dimly, I think it was, maybe not. I knew that I needed to have a cabin in this, so I put in cabin layouts, and I just pinned everything I found with cabins. And I came up with, like, that came up under cabins. I don't know why. The words that the images that sometimes come up with these don't always make sense. Like this, again, that is not something that I would expect to see in a cabin. So now I have this whole batch of pictures, all of which are, you know, some of them are, you know, doesn't that look tasty? That was, oh, that looks like it might be terrifying. And what on earth is happening here? You've got different tones and different challenges. And it's up to you now how you're going to do this. Are you going to do this in the advanced way where you have to use every single one of these in some way, or just a few and then you return to it when you need a boost to get over, say, a rocky point in your story? And that's your call. Personally, I like doing it so that it's a little bit more challenging. Sophia Loren ended up being part of the inspiration for my main character. And, you know, the fun thing with this is that you decide how these pictures inspire you. For instance, maybe it is literal. I do have a nocturnal in this story. I had to research it, find out some really cool things about it. I actually have this binder. I don't discuss it much, this Book of Common Prayer. It does show up in the story. And this chair is in one of the rooms. Sometimes these details get cut in the editing, and that's completely fine. The purpose is not to write the perfect first draft as you go through. Some of these things are just going to get eliminated, but it is to get the creative juices flowing. Now, something like this, you could choose to put the actual sign in the story, or you could choose to look at the underlying principle and see, okay, well, what is this? And it ended up being an element of my main character really loves reading and is fond of dinosaurs. So there's that. Other things over here, like, okay, we've got the Quiet Man. That obviously popped up under the film section. And there's not a lot of high fantasy in Quiet Man. In fact, there's none. And so trying to work that into my story, I was looking at it and I came up with, well, there were some aspects between the characters that I really liked, the themes, the relationship that developed. And so I drew inspiration from that. So using all of the pictures is an incredibly broad brush that you use, that you decide how exactly you're going to use it. Like, okay, this is a really cool, look at that sink. That also came up. Here we are. Here we're at the cabin section. See, these are, as you can see, these things all came up. Well, that's Lindsay Sterling. She's not a cabin. But all of these things came up with cabin. And so it's up to you how you work them in. If you wanted to be really organized about it, what you could do is say, just take it, and as soon as you use it, edit it and say used. And that would probably be better than how I do it. I actually printed them off. And it was a fairly shrunken size, and then I crossed them off when I use them. And then when you go back through and when you edit, you need to be willing to cut whatever doesn't work. Really, this is more of a technique to just make sure that you are getting started, to get those creative juices flowing. Don't hold on too hard to anything in this. You're going to come up with some brilliant ideas, some stupid ideas, some good ideas for another story, and some extraneous ideas. And not to worry, you'll be able to use them all eventually if you have time, or go on and find new ones. And there you have it. That is how you put together a Pinterest prompt novel. Now, hopefully this is helpful for you. Feel free to adapt it however you like. And if you decide to write a novel with this, I'd love to see what you do. So please feel free to comment and tell me what your story is. If you want to share the board with me, I'll go check it out if I can. And if you're on Wattpad and doing this, make sure to tag me. My username there is @JessicaBFry. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it and subscribe if you'd like to see more. So until the next time, have an absolutely wonderful time preparing for NaNoWriMo. Happy NaNoWriMo and happy Halloween! I'll see you all later. Bye.